Up next on The Big Room.
Mr. Incredible, he rescues the cat and stops the thing with the tree.
And then puts the tree right back into
puts
the
the tree
ground.
back, because that's how trees work.
Sure.
Ends up
5-second rule.
ends up on the top of a building. 5-second rule.
Pop the tree out, get the
1,
cat,
2, 3, 4, 5. Nailed it.
put it back. It's fine.
Yeah.
We should go time it.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work, just put Danielle's face with a big X over it. Wrong. Welcome back to the big room where we're doing superhero month. We're springboarding off of the Deadpool, the
Yep.
Wolverine movie, which was good. We liked that.
It was good.
Very
We
good.
liked it. Certified big room banger, as you will.
It was a banging movie. A blast. We watched 3 Deadpool movies last week. My brain is already sick
lot.
of superhero movies, and we've got to do 3 more.
Yeah, we just started.
3 more?
Yeah, after this.
4 more.
Yeah.
Well, after this. This
Yeah,
is
yeah,
our.
after
Yeah.
Let's all get very confused. So,
Whoa.
we watched The Incredibles, which is possibly my favorite superhero movie of all time, but we'll get back to that. So, it released on November 5th, 2004. I was freshly 9 years old when
Wow.
it came out.
Golly.
I saw it in theaters in Atlanta, Georgia, Christmas time.
Why Atlanta?
It's where my grandpa lives. We were visiting him up
right.
north in Atlanta.
Did he like it?
He didn't go. I think he had to
No.
work or something.
We're watching a cartoon.
And we were
Lame.
like tired of just being in the house, so Dad took us to the movie theater and we watched
Nice.
The Incredibles, and I loved it. So the budget for the film, this is a weird one. It was between 92 million and 145 million, which is quite the chasm. It's a $50
pretty-
million
Yeah.
gap.
That's a range.
Why don't they know?
Did they lose track? Did they? I don't know.
The director gave himself a little bonus.
Yeah, Brad Bird was like in that 50s for me. Box office though doesn't matter because it made 631 million.
Gosh.
It
That's
was
a lot.
It was the 4th highest grossing film of 2004, behind. Are you ready for this list?
2004.
All right, number 1 highest grossing film. I'm gonna go from 1 to 5, with The Incredibles at number 4. Okay.
Okay.
So number 1, Shrek 2.
Wow.
Hitter.
Oh.
Number 2, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Hitter.
Wow.
Number 3, Spider-Man 2.
Ooh.
Wow.
Number 4, The Incredibles. And it came ahead of The Passion of the Christ.
Ah!
Man, what a year for movies.
The ultimate superhero movie, am I right?
That movie is a piece of shit. That is a horrible film. I think I would rather drown in molasses than watch The Passion of the Christ again.
It scared me as a child.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, because
A lot.
Did you also see it in the theaters that release year?
Yeah.
My mom was like, "You're 9. You're ready for this?" No, I was not.
I'm pretty sure I went with the church group. They're like,
So
bring all
bad.
your kids. We'll
You-
traumatize them
I've
at once.
still never watched it.
She's refused
I've
to see
only
it.
Me neither.
watched what they did, what they forced on me at church.
Like on the Easter crap. Every Easter,
Here's-
they're like, "Here, watch a white guy get whipped for
Yeah.
pretend."
It's crazy to me though that Shrek 2 beat out Spider-Man 2
And Harry Potter.
and Harry Potter.
That's crazy. Yeah.
That's
Shrek
crazy.
Shrek is a titan. The Shrek films are the greatest
Okay.
films ever made.
I've never seen any of them.
You haven't
Hear or
seen
make up that they're making another Shrek.
They are Shrek 5.
Okay.
No, they're really declining. They need to stop.
Shrek 5 or Shrek 6, whatever Shrek it is.
This could be a return to form.
Maybe you're right. You're right.
Write this down on your phone.
Okay.
For October.
Okay.
We'll watch a Shrek movie because Nick's
Okay.
never seen Shrek, and Shrek is lit.
October, Halloween, I'll dress up as Shrek.
Yeah.
Oh
We'll
my
talk about it.
God!
Oh,
Please,
yeah.
Green.
please. We could do green.
that'd be
No,
great.
I was gonna say we could do Green Month, but Wicked won't be out yet. November.
November.
Green Month. Green Lantern.
Oh.
Shrek. Wicked.
Alien.
Alien.
Ooh.
I think the alien blood.
Is the alien
I
green?
think the alien caustic blood is green. I can't remember though. It's been almost 10
Anyways.
years since I've seen Alien. It's been over 10 years since I've seen Alien.
Shrek.
Anyway, we digress. The film was written and directed by Brad Bird, who was Pixar's first outside director who's brought in to make this movie. He pitched the movie to Pixar after the box office disappointment of his first film, The Iron Giant.
Ooh.
So
Oh, but what a good movie, though.
I know. So much of his staff as well, he brought over to Pixar to make this movie. And he also voiced Edna Mode.
Oh, nice.
Edna Mode. So that's him.
And a guest.
An icon.
And I guess,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
obviously not what he sounds like in his speaking voice, but it's
Could you
such a
imagine?
good performance. So the animation is a key point here. I mentioned that much of the team, or some of the team at least, was comprised of the Iron Giant crew, but that was a 2D animated movie. So they had to transition not only studios, but from 2D to 3D CGI animation, which was quite the difficulty, not only for their staff, but for existing Pixar staff as well. Because this was the first Pixar film that had an all-human set of characters. The previous Pixar movies in order were Toy Story,
yeah.
A Bug's Life,
Like
Toy
the first
Story.
ever?
Yes. The previous movies were Toy Story, A Bug's Life, Toy Story 2, Monsters, Inc., and Finding Nemo.
Wow.
And of those, the only films with people in them are the Toy Story films and Monsters, Inc., but they are very, very, very brief.
Yeah. I don't think you even see the mom's face in the first Toy Story, do you?
I can't remember.
Yeah.
Character supervisor Bill Wise was quoted, "Brad wanted a very stylized human, and that's always tricky. Finding her place on that realistic to stylized line that's both believable and compelling, but still cartoony and appealing." And they had particular difficulties with the hair. He writes, or is quoted as, they had something like 95 costume changes from t-shirts to dresses to suits. The clothing was particularly difficult, an enormous challenge, he said. The team had some experience animating hair and clothes for Monsters, Inc., but Pixar had not done hair and clothes on that scale, and Brad Bird would not compromise his vision for technical simplicity, so no shortcuts. An example cited was in Monsters, Inc., Boo, the kid, she has her hair in pigtails. Because that makes hair easier to animate when
Oh.
you chunk it like that.
Yeah.
But Violet's long black hair draping in front of her face was integral to her character development. So they couldn't cheat around animating hair. Now, it wasn't individual strands of hair. They started with that, and there are some really funny clips you can find on the internet of her hair being like perfectly straight. And then she turns and it freaks out and turns into a spaghetti mess. Because, I mean, we're talking 2003 computer technology, 2002 computer technology. It's
God,
crazy,
so
crazy old.
Yeah.
They wrote, or they said, water's hard, fire's hard, hair's hard. Then when we got the hair problem solved, we had to do wet hair and hair in the wind. Basically, everything you would think of as trivial in today's animation, muscles reacting to motion, clothing flexing and moving, hair blowing in the wind were incredible challenges.
Incredible challenges.
Incredible challenges. So I wrote, or what I was thinking of as I was watching it last night, because again, I've seen this movie more than 10 times, I think, at this point. And this time, some of the animation didn't 100% scan. And that's
Yeah.
not a knock. Like, for example, the skin looks a bit like clay sometimes. The eyes were a bit jarring in certain scenes. And some of the hair didn't quite scan in every scene, especially with lots of movement, especially with Violet. But it was a team inventing the wheel. So it's not a knock, but I had a fear for people like Nick who are watching the movie for the first time in 2024. My last Brad Bird quote in this section was, "The Incredibles was a testament to the talent of the animators at Pixar." He said, basically, I came into a wonderful studio, frightened a lot of people with how many presents I wanted for Christmas, and then got almost everything I asked for. So, I mean, did the animation scan for you as a first-time viewer, or was it a bit like odd looking?
It was odd.
Like Toy Story, even the dog in Toy Story looks like shit.
Oh God, yeah, that dog needs
but
help.
if you've seen Toy Story when you're 4, you are willing to forgive a lot of crimes. But you, as a first-time viewer in 2024, I'm just interested on how
Right.
if it detracted from the experience.
It didn't detract. There was like 10 minutes in the beginning of the movie where it was all I was focusing on was this looks. I don't know if this is the right word, but it just felt really smooth.
Yeah,
Like everything, like no detail to the faces.
Yeah.
Skin is
so
really
it's-
glossy.
Yeah.
Yep. Eyeballs are really
And-
shiny.
I don't know. It also doesn't help that like Mr. Incredible like just has a weird shaped body.
Yeah.
He does.
Well, that's
And
not-
then I don't. It distracted me for a little bit, and then I got over it real
especially
quick.
when they use the shape of his body to accentuate his out of shapeness when when we go forward however
Yeah.
many years to when he's got a kid, because his legs like kind of stay the same, but then he's just huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when he squeezes into the suit, it's extra like, dude, you know, and then he gets in shape by lifting trains, which is sweet. I want to talk about the score really quick before we get into the plot. A lot of housekeeping up front, but I did a lot of research because Pixar freaking documents everything. You can go to their site and look up the movie, and they have sections on like the animation, the music, the storytelling, the characters, and it links you off to videos from the bonus features DVD, which is super cool. So the score was composed by an Italian composer, Michael Giacchino. He's a frequent collaborator with Brad Bird and J.J. Abrams, and he provided scores for films such as Sky High, Mission Impossible 3, the 2009 Star Trek, Up, Zootopia, and Rogue One, a Star Wars story, and many, many more
Wow.
films.
Zootopia
Zootopia is a
is a
good
great
movie.
movie.
The first 7 minutes of Up, that score is
Dude.
just so good.
Same guy.
That makes sense. Love that for him.
The direction that Brad Bird gave him for the score was, and this is true of the overall aesthetic, and it actually reminded me a bit of Batman the Animated Series, both from a setting and a score perspective, which is the future seen from the 1960s,
Yeah.
which I super like. And it's that
Yeah.
mid-century but futuristic, kind of almost Jetsons-y, but without the
Yeah.
flying cars, kind of futurism. And that's my favorite thing. And I think it's my favorite thing because of this movie. I mean, seeing
Yeah.
this at 9 was very formative for me.
This was a lot more spy thriller and aesthetic than I remembered as a kid.
Right.
Like,
One of the things that it reminded me of, especially from the motif of the theme, the da-na, which is super superhero-y. And it reminds me of the Bond theme.
yeah.
You know, they're not similar. They're tonally a little bit different, but what both of them do to me when I hear them, I am immediately locked in to the universe and the setting. Every time you watch a Bond, there have been 7 James Bonds, and it doesn't matter to me. I hear that theme and I go, I like settle into my chair and I go, it's time to watch a Bond movie. And I think that that's what helps this movie cement itself in my brain as a superhero film. When I hear that motif, I go, it's time to like punch bad guys. It's awesome. It was also, the score was recorded on analog tape, not digitally,
Oh, wow.
to get that 60s feel. And because because Michael Giacchino said that brass instruments sound better recorded analog. And from the music side, the people that love them some analog, you cannot convince those people that digital is just as good. You can't do it. And I think they have certain merit. The hard part as like not a rich person with Pixar money is like analog shit is really, really expensive. I played modular amps for the last 6 or 7 years when I was playing music, and it is infinitely cheaper. And you can just go, I want this kind of amp for this song, and you turn a knob, and there it is. And it's 85% as good, and the cost per performance is just there for me. But I love that commitment to the bit of, oh, you want a 60s soundtrack? We need to do it with 60s equipment.
That's good.
That's super cool. The movie was my first real introduction to jazz, which as a kid, as a 9-year-old, I'm like, jazz is boring BS. And then you hear this, and it's evocative and emotional and exciting and visceral. And I was just, I remember being sick in bed, and they have a part of the behind the scenes where they talk about the score, and I was just I watched it like 3 times in a row because it was 3 a.m. and I had a sore throat, and it distracted me. But I was also like, jazz is dope. Cowboy Bebop has a similar deal, similar style. Batman the Animated Series. I love jazz. I'm not a jazz nerd. I'm not like Forrest is into jazz. He like knows what he's talking about, and I'm like, jazz
Sounds
is
cool.
cool. Yeah, I'm way too stupid for jazz, but I enjoy it because of this movie. Did
Man.
you just not care at all?
I couldn't like I remember the like theme song. But
Yeah.
really outside of that, I don't remember much about the music.
But it wasn't distracting.
It wasn't distracting.
And I think that's the job of a score on a level.
correct.
But you're not a musician.
Yeah.
Not that I'm a musician, but I pay attention to music.
I mean, you are.
Did the score stand out to you as a violinist person?
I mean, I love this score. It's one of the, like, I have a playlist of like movie scores that I love, and there's some songs from The Incredibles on it. Faux show.
Nice.
But like as a kid, I wouldn't say it was like a formative like standout moment for me.
You
In the
pointed-
same way that like Pirates of the Caribbean was.
Well, that's. I mean, obviously, this score pales in comparison to. I mean, the Star Wars score for one.
I wouldn't say that. It's just they're
Indiana
different.
Well, as far
different.
as the stranglehold they had on my life,
Gotcha.
this is very. It's definitely
It's harder to whistle this score.
right, and it's. I mean, Star Wars is a hell of a thing to whistle as well, but.
But you still can do it.
You still can do
It's just- Yeah.
You pointed out the one song that you had on your playlist was the one where Bob is working. He's doing the undercover superhero thing, and it's the montage of him lifting the sectional up so
Getting in
she can
shape.
vacuum, and he's
Yeah.
kissing the wife,
Yeah.
and he's
Yeah.
working out with trains.
Quality time with the kids.
And
yeah.
that's throwing the ball for Dash. That's way the hell out there, and that's the very idyllic, happy nuclear family kind of scene. I wish I had the piece of music written down, but that's the one that you had on your playlist that you
Yes.
pointed out last night,
Yep.
because that's one of the only scenes in the film outside of the main motif where I was like, this is doing it for me, score wise, and you were like, yeah, I have it on playlist.
Really good.
Huh.
Okay, let's talk about the film itself, plots and whatnot. I'm particularly interested in what Nick thinks. Carl, you've seen this before, I hope.
Yes.
As
Yes,
a
many,
kid,
many
or
times.
was this a?
As a kid, and like, I don't think I realized how dark it was. Like, we open the movie with like a suicide attempt, basically, and that kind of launches us into, okay, now they're open to lawsuits, and that kind of makes them go into like hiding, basically, and that kind of, kickstarts the whole plot, basically. And I was like, oh my god, this was a lot darker than I remembered.
Yeah, it's thematically very.
It's a
I
lot
don't know
of
if it's different because, like, obviously Bambi's mom gets shot in Bambi, but it doesn't happen on screen. But in this film,
Yeah.
you've got
And it's
like,
animals too. This is like
Right.
people and real problems.
and
like,
dudes with guns actively trying to murder children, which is a bit of a brave approach for a Disney Pixar
Yeah,
film. I think
it's a very adult. Like, I mean, the suicide, the
Yeah.
lawsuits, the marital struggles.
yeah, there's like infidelity kind of hinted at. So
Yeah,
there's
multiple
a lot
times.
of. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Yeah, they got away with this for the Pixar movie.
and kids
There's
liked
like
it.
deaths on screen. I think I saw something that there was 23 deaths or something like that in this movie.
like, I don't know, the kids kill.
I
Like,
did-
there was a point where I'm like, oh, there's Dash's first kill. Oh, there's Violet's first kill. It was awesome.
I did have that thought. I was like, oh my god, they're actually killing people.
Yeah.
And like a big part of the plot is the mom looking at the kids going, they will kill you. You have to run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it was, I mean, immediately out of the gate, even with the opening scene where it's like them getting interviewed or whatever, talking about,
That was a great introduction too.
it's just immediately like, because I went into it, I was like, all right, here we go. Let's watch a kids movie. I was like, oh, this is real.
I kind of because we watched. Did we watch
Robin Hood.
Robin Hood this year?
Yes.
So we watched Robin Hood this year, and you weren't super into it because you didn't have the childhood connection.
Yeah.
And I was kind of sitting there last night, getting through the first 20 minutes of the movie, suicide attempt, lawsuits from the train people, and all that jazz, going, I don't think Nick's going to have the same issue with this movie as he had with
Yeah.
Robin Hood, because this movie is, I mean, the dude that he saves from suicide, Mr. Incredible, he's getting interviewed by the news, and Mr. Incredible pushes through the crowd and play, I saved your life, and the dude goes, you ruined my death, and it's very much like, I want to kill myself. They don't skirt around
Crazy,
it.
yeah.
It's wild. And they even go in a pretty good amount of detail in the beginning of the effects of superheroes on the real world and the politics behind it and
Yeah.
the superheroes this effectively getting canceled and
Just the herd mentality. Like, we see that play out
Yeah.
now, with day
Yeah.
with things.
And it's an angle in a superhero movie that you don't get often from, say, your Batmans, your Marvel
Yeah.
films, especially of this era. I mean, Spider-Man 2 had just
Very,
come out.
very fresh take.
So you don't have the whole superheroes being driven out from society, or rather integrated into society without being super, because of things like lawsuits and the optics being turning the public against them, etc. It seemed fresh as someone who doesn't read comic books.
Yeah, I feel like superheroes in Marvel and DC, it's one or 10, a small group of cool fantastical beings. With the Incredibles, like there's dozens of them, and they're just part of the world, living their life, doing like
Yeah.
superhero
It's like
stuff, and then they're like, nah, we
It's
hate
almost
you now.
pseudo Avengers-y, but without the ensemble. You're in
Yeah.
a world where there are
There's
many
just superheroes
but
everywhere.
they're just chilling.
Yeah, they're just like, okay, I'm gonna save a cat, I'm gonna stop a robbery, but there's like dozens of them.
Kind of to
Or
that.
like the boys, but they're good people.
that never seen it.
That was for Carl.
Can't be bothered.
Yeah.
Don't care. One superhero film that was affected by this release was 2005's Fantastic Four that they had to do apparently serious rewrites because a lot of their script shared some things with the Incredibles.
Interesting.
I saw
there's-
a lot of people call this movie the best Fantastic Four movie that isn't Fantastic Four,
that makes
Yeah.
sense.
which I haven't really seen any Fantastic Four, so I don't have
Elastigirl-
any opinions. but,
Elastigirl is just Mr. Fantastic. They're both stretchy.
yeah.
They're all just the same. I mean, Mr. Incredible,
Invisible Woman and Violet.
Invisible Woman.
Thing,
Oh,
I guess,
yeah.
is Mr. Incredible
Yeah.
because big, strong. Johnny Storm doesn't quite fit, although Dash
Dax
Jack
can
Jack.
turn
Jack
fiery.
has
I was gonna say
or
the
Jack Jack,
baby.
yeah.
Dash
Yeah.
is just fast. So I mean, that's a dope superpower.
Just fast.
He can run on water. That's pretty sick.
I have a quote from Brad Bird that I was going to read later on the. Hang on, let me find it. Okay, this is how he chose the abilities. I'm quoting now. The dad is always expected in the family to be strong, so I made him strong. The moms are always pulled in a million different directions, so I made her stretch like taffy. Teenagers, particularly teenage girls, are insecure and defensive, so I made her turn invisible and turn on shields. And 10-year-old boys are hyperactive energy balls. Babies are unrealized potential.
Wow. That's
Ooh.
That's crazy.
That's writing.
I like that.
I read that
Yeah,
quote.
this movie is so relatable.
It also leans into those like stereotypes without it being stereotypical. Like it didn't feel like forced.
Yeah.
Any of
Well,
those
and
things.
It's the most, for me, this is incredibly subjective. It's the most humanized any superhero movie has ever done for the heroes. Because
Yeah.
normally, like in a superhero film, you find the humanization through the eyes of the villain, or in the struggle between, it's the meeting of the goddess or whatever. And in this, it's you are on their side or you understand their struggles within 10 minutes.
yeah.
He gets sued, and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
And then the insurance troubles and the struggles fitting in. I mean, everybody can relate to that.
Having
whether
a
you're
job,
40 or
soul
4.
sucking
Yeah.
job, and then you go
Terrible
home and your
boss.
kids
I
are
would
just throw your
screaming.
boss
I
through
love
the
that
wall.
he's near a high voltage sign in the office. Like even there, he's like not quite safe. Like
Yeah.
it's not,
and,
yeah.
I mean, there's the whole struggles with insurance being a scam is like face value right there.
Again, very adult.
I'm
Like a
not
kid's not gonna
happy,
understand.
Yeah.
yeah.
So
God, I hated his boss so much. When he got thrown through the wall, I was like, finally, like, good.
boss is Rex from Toy Story.
Yeah.
Oh,
By the way.
it sounded familiar.
It's Rex.
I thought it was interesting when they do the like the introductions with like that interview. Mr. Incredible kind of says like he likes the idea of kind of settling down, and then Helen Elastigirl is
I'm at the
like
top of my
quit,
game."
quit now, yeah. And then like that kind of gets flipped. In the 15 years, she's kind of settled in her home life, and he's not very happy with it.
It kind
thought
of
that was
feels
kind of interesting.
It's a little bit of a grass is always greener kind of situation. In the unpredictability of life.
Yeah,
I have
it's good
more-
foreshadowing.
I have more Bond similarities in between. I have two more. So for one, Syndrome's Cave is very Bond villainous.
Oh, yeah.
Nick has never seen a
The
James
secret
Bond movie.
island
Nope.
layer with the volcano.
I played the
Not one?
I played the 64 game.
GoldenEye 007. You should watch that
Wow.
movie. It's
gotta
great.
gotta count for something.
And Edna Mode is very Q.
Q.
They even call her
right, you're
E.
still talking.
They call her E at one point, and it's
yeah.
she's the gadget. Q and James Bond is the gadget person.
Apparently, she was like modeled after a real life fashion designer.
Oh,
Like the
cool.
character was based off of someone.
I liked that marriage of technology with like overtly a stereotypical fashion designer. I thought was super cool. Her house is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Edna.
She might be my
Mode
favorite
is-
character.
yeah,
Can I
she's
can I give him a hot take talking about her?
Oh, let's go.
I think their old. I almost say costume. Their old what's the word I'm looking for? Outfits?
Suits?
Suits. God.
The super suit.
Their suits. Sheesh.
Why do you need to know?
Their old suits are way better than the red ones.
I agree.
Elastigirl's original logo is very good.
Yeah, and
Or sorry, her flag.
Carl got called out for calling the flag of Wales a logo on TikTok.
It is technically.
I had to diffuse the situation, and I did so quite well, I think.
Yeah. Well done.
No, I agree with you. I think that Mr. Incredible's original suit is awesome.
That blue is good.
But
Yeah.
you kind of have to, when you make a family
It's like a powder
suit,
blue and black. It's pretty solid.
you have to make something that works for everybody's body type and is cohesive and samey. So
Yeah.
I get it, but no, I 100% agree with you. And it's kind of a break from 60s iconography to like 2000s
true.
modernism as well. I interpreted it as, I'm not a, am I reading too far into it?
No, I just love it. Just sounded so like thought out the way you said that.
I have been,
This fashion man.
I've been
over
in here for 2.5
2000s
hours.
modernism. Ooh,
I've been in here for 2.5 hours making notes on this movie to prep for this show.
I was
Amazing.
impressed. That's what that's
Thank
Like,
you.
commenting on
I
fashion.
love the beginning meeting. It kind of broke my brain when I first saw it as a 9-year-old. Everything broke my brain as a 9-year-old.
That's what we're
Fair.
learning.
You know, Mr. Incredible, he rescues the cat and stops the thing with the tree.
And then puts the tree right back
puts
into the
the tree
ground.
back, because that's how trees work.
Sure.
ends
5-second rule.
ends up on the top of a building. 5-second rule.
Pop the tree out. Get the
1,
cat.
2, 3, 4, 5. Nailed it.
Put it back. It's fine.
Yeah.
We should go time it.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work, just put Danielle's face with a big X over it. Wrong.
I'm never wrong.
Then he ends up on the roof of a building, and there's a burglarist and stealing the purse. And you can tell a lot about a
Bon
woman from the
voyage.
contents of her purse.
Oh, no, different guy.
But I guess that's not what you had in mind. And then Elastigirl punches the dude in the face. They have that flirtatious encounter, and then she has one of the greatest lines in the movie. I think you need to be more flexible.
Yeah.
Good.
He's like,
And
are you doing anything later?
and then it's their wedding in the next scene. And that as a kid, I was like, they knew each other. They were just kind of like messing with each other. I thought that was
Yeah.
crazy.
She's got a previous engagement.
The wedding scene is a bummer, though, on a second, third, fourth, 11th watch, because everybody in the crowd sitting with Edna Mode are dead superheroes that either died by their capes getting snagged or were killed by variations
Yeah.
of the Omnidroid.
No
Including
capes.
front
No
row
capes.
seat is Gazer Beam.
Aw, rip Gazer
I
Beam.
didn't even think about that.
Well, front row seat was
bummer.
Frozone. Lucius?
Lucius.
Lucius.
I think so. Sounds right.
I thought it was weird that they were in their suits and that they were just in like regular wedding attire.
Well, Lucius and Bob are like Lucius was the best man, so he walked down with him and whatever. But yeah, I think that was to make the point,
yeah.
so that like you wouldn't.
That's kind of
know-
like end of an era, sort of.
Yeah, we have met and are going to meet Frozone later. Everybody else we're just going to see in Edna's flashbacks to them being murdered by rockets, or like if Gazer Beam was in the crowd, not dressed as Gazer Beam, his skeleton in the cave would make no sense.
Yeah,
So
there'd be
they
no
did. That's
payoff.
a
you're
narrative
right.
choice that doesn't make sense in the context of a wedding, but it makes sense narratively for the future of the film.
Yeah.
I wonder if the priest or the person marrying them knew that they were superheroes.
I would, think,
Or did they just think that they were a random couple with superhero
or that they
friends?
had. I would think not, based on Frozone having to tell Bob to take his mask off before he walks through the doors.
Yeah.
True.
But maybe that was just for it doesn't go with your tuxedo, although it totally did because black.
How did they meet all these superheroes?
Yeah, the guy's like, I'll just whatever, doesn't matter. He's probably done the weirdest weddings ever. So I loved as well, and this is I kind of felt like I was gonna get a little bit of flack for writing this down because this is true of literally all superheroes, but I have emotional ties to this movie, so I'm gonna make the point anyway. I love how on the nose the superhero names are, and yes, Spider-Man. Wonder what his powers are. But you know what I mean? It works. I like that naming convention for really all superheroes because you hear the name and you know the shtick immediately. That's not true of
Yeah.
all of them,
It's just good branding.
Mr. Incredible kind of suffers from the same deal as Superman. What's your power? I'm super.
He's
I'm
incredible.
incredible. But everybody else, Bomb Voyage. French guy
Yeah.
with bombs, you know his bit. Elastigirl.
So good.
Stretchy, you know her bit. Frozone. Freezes water, you know his bit. Gazer beam.
Something with
Laser
beams.
beams out of his eyes when he gazes at, you know, whatever. Like it's and there were others that weren't quite so cut and dry, but I really liked even at the end the Underminer. He's a miner.
Yeah.
I guess the only one that doesn't make
And I
sense.
think he was voiced by somebody whose last name was like Rats something.
He
So
was
that's kinda
voiced
funny.
by the same guy who voices the piggy bank in Toy Story and is in most Pixar films. I just cannot remember. The
yeah.
guy from Cheers, the mailman from
Something-
Cheers. I can't
Oh,
remember his
yeah.
It's
name.
like Ratzenberg or something.
I don't
It's
know.
like,
Sorry, guy.
I don't know.
yeah.
I did a lot of research just not about that because I didn't think you would mention that character. What were you gonna say?
I was just saying, I think the only one that isn't super on the nose is Syndrome.
Yeah,
But cool name
Well,
and cool.
He does have hero syndrome,
yeah.
which is a real thing.
Oh.
Dang.
It's an ambition thing for him.
Dang, you're right.
Wow.
It's an ambition thing for him. Now, how does Bomb Voyage attach the bomb to Incrediboy? His cape.
This cape.
No capes.
Nuggets.
No capes.
No capes. Capes.
Can we talk about Bon Voyage or whatever?
Bomb Voyage?
Whatever his name is.
Bomb.
He's a mime,
Yeah.
but he talks.
He's a stereotypical French guy.
Well,
His name is Bomb Voyage. And how else are you going to convey that someone is absolutely French than putting them in a black and white striped shirt, give them a beret, and paint, for extra measure, just so that it really drives home, paint the face white?
yeah, I guess you're right.
In case you didn't get it.
Super French.
It is for kids.
Marcel Incredible! It's the best. So good.
Yeah.
I love Bomb Voyage.
Just like one baguette short. Like,
So yeah, then we have the thing that we've kind of talked about. He saves the guy from suicide, gets sued. Bomb Voyage blows up the train tracks because Incrediboy's bomb falls on him because wow. And then he has to stop the train, a la Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
And or was
Yeah.
it Spider-Man 1?
No, two.
2. Joey Diaz is in that scene. Spider-Man 2.
I did like that Mr. Incredible kind of like winces before he stops the train to show
Yeah.
that like he's still human. Like it's still gonna hurt him, but like he's not invincible.
Well, he's bulletproof, actually.
Yeah.
He has a
But his muscles hurt.
if you look in
Yeah.
his office where he's got like the gallery wall that I wish this wall looks like of all the incredible
Oh, yeah.
accolades.
Such good
There's
stuff.
the shot of him with the message iPad when he's writing the stuff down, and there's an item on his desk that's a jar full of bullets, and written on the front of the jar is bullets that bounced off my chest
That's sick.
because he's bulletproof. And it's a huge like animal cracker jar full of bullets.
Maybe it was a bullet train.
Ooh, bullet train.
It says-
He's bullet train proof. I really like the scene in the elementary school when Dash gets in trouble for the tack. Mm-hmm. Putting the tack on the chair with the super
the
speed.
school?
He moved right there. Right there. Coincidence? I think not. Which is I have two quoted things that I say to myself all the time from this movie. Coincidence, I think not is one. And then the other one is, I'm not happy, Bob. Not happy.
Ask me why.
Okay. Why? Be specific, Bob. Why are you unhappy? I love that.
God, I hate that guy so much. He has 4 clocks in his office that are all the same time.
time. Doesn't know how to use the clocks.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
But he loves clocks. Doesn't work unless all the cogs mesh together.
With his little nubby fingers.
Oh, he's so good. The way that Bob crushes the door handle when the boss tells him to turn around and come back when he is not allowed to save the guy getting mugged in the alley. How many times have you wished you could crush a door handle because of this movie? It's that for me. And when
Zero, because
I've
I
never.
just watched this last
well,
night.
I've never thought about that.
But that and when he can't close the car door because his finger indentations are on top of the car, and then he just picks the whole thing up,
And
and
that
the
little
kid's
kid-
just sitting there like
He just puts it back down.
his bubblegum bubble pops over his face. He just puts it down. I'm like, there are so many situations in my life where if I had the strength to pick up my car out of frustration, I would have done it.
I mean, your new Miata's pretty tiny. You
That's-
might be able to.
I don't think I can lift 2,100 pounds still.
No?
I'm quite small.
Dang.
Gotta go to the gym.
The mountain from Game of Thrones could probably lift up my car, but I'm not that strong. I can't open pickle jars.
Danielle, open the pickle jar for
That's
me.
not true. He opens the pickle jars and the Parmesan cheese jars.
True. Parmesan cheese jar. And those
It's a
things
hard
are
one.
tight.
Yeah.
That little kid at the end of the movie cracked me up.
Yeah,
I forget the line.
Mr.
but
Incredible
him just
comes-
screaming at the
That's
yeah.
totally
Yeah,
wicked.
yeah.
Okay, you're talking about that one because the one that gets me is this second time. Like Bob comes home another time in the same crappy car, and it's the night that he's cutting through the steak and breaks the plate and whatever else. Gets fired, comes home, and he gets out of his car. That again has the finger dents on the door, but the door closes first time. And he like senses the kid, turns around and goes, "Well, what are you waiting for?" And the kid goes, "I don't know, something amazing, I guess." And he's like, "Me too, kid." Walks inside.
That's heartbreaking.
I love that, and I love that the kid like comedy comes in threes, and he comes back for that final
Yeah.
scene that you were talking about.
Yeah.
Just when you've forgotten about him.
Yeah. Then we have the whole idyllic, the montage, but the family. Let's talk about the family dynamic, which is the other thing that makes the movie so relatable. Is that you have the stereotypical family of five, nuclear family bickering and struggles that people have, but with the added layer of everybody is either trying to fit in or the kids are wishing they were normal and they're arguing over the table, and the wife wants the husband to intervene. "You want me to intervene? I'm intervening," and picks up the kitchen table, and it's just chaos.
Overcorrection.
Until
Yeah.
Lucius rings the door, and then everybody goes back to safe. Was that like it just humanizes them in a way that I don't get from Spider-Man? Is that unfair? Did y'all experience that similarly?
I agree. I can't pinpoint exactly what it is, but I definitely agree. Like, if you comparing it to Spider-Man, I love
Spider-Man.
still feels like characters in a, not that I've ever read the comics, but like feel like characters in a comic. This just feels, it feels like, I had a thought a second ago, and this might be crazy, but I almost feel like they're human first, superhero second.
Well,
Like you see everything through their human emotion, even though they have these fantastical powers.
down to the power, like what I read from director and writer Brad Bird, down to the way that the powers were assigned to everyone in the family
That's-
for certain reasons. I think that's what does it.
Yeah.
Other superheroes were designed like Superman was designed as a I think an outlet. And there's a Jewish layer there that I am just not informed enough to talk about. But like superhero has very profound origins in why he exists, as I'm sure most superheroes do. But The Incredibles started with building superheroes through a family dynamic, and I think that's what makes it so relatable in a more engaging way for me and for kids than Batman, who is not relatable because he's rich. He's a rich guy who punches people for fun because his parents were killed by a criminal. My parents haven't been killed by a criminal. I can't relate to Batman. I love Batman. I think he's awesome. He's probably my favorite superhero. As someone who hasn't read the comics, sorry, Forrest and Joe and David, we had that conversation in our Discord a couple days ago. But the superheroes in The Incredibles, or the Parr family, as it were, just registers for me on a level. You're a woman.
What?
You
Parr's
might
a
have
name.
Since when?
you might have a significantly
Oh my
different
God.
take on this, and you're someone who has kind of looked down on. I'm mainly talking about The Christmas Story here, on arguing families. So what separates the family arguments in A Christmas Story from The Incredibles, and then does the family dynamic in The Incredibles engage with you at all?
No. So for me, in the Christmas Story, I think it's the family arguing, but also not winning. Like
There's no resolution.
There's no resolution. I know they go and they get their dinner at the Chinese restaurant. And,
Rah, 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 rah,
yeah,
yes.
whatever. But the whole movie, like the mom is slaving away and her kids are yelling, and then her dinner gets ruined. And I don't know.
The
There's
dad's also not very engaged. He's
dad's not
also
very
in the
engaged.
paper, but that's very Bob Parr.
There's
in that
no
scene.
idyllic sequence, though. I guess we get a little bit of one after they've wrapped the presents and everything, but it's not enough. I don't know. I just don't like a Christmas
I think
Story.
that The Christmas Story is more meant to capture the chaos in the family dynamic around Christmas time, which often is brutal until the moment when you're sitting down, and then there's those moments of peace.
And I don't know.
But
it
that
stresses
movie
me
not
out.
scanning for you, I completely understand.
It
Having
stresses
known
me
you for
out.
30 years.
I remember I remember growing up, like when we probably went to see this movie in the theaters as a family. I don't think my mom liked it at first because of all the yelling. Like my house growing up, we were not a yelling household. We were very much a like my dad had his
boy.
he had his tone and like that's all he needed.
The hammer.
The hammer tone, his like, you know. So I remember my mom being like, they're just yelling at each other all the time. So that's not to say it didn't scan for me, because it absolutely does, especially like watching the mom be a stereotypical, like she's trying to hold everything together and her husband's not doing anything. And it's like, can you just pay attention and be present with us? Like, so
Okay.
I don't know. It definitely brings out some emotions in me, but I remember my mom not liking it.
I have a
back in the
follow-up
day.
tangential question.
I don't know if that answered your question.
Because it did. You have another piece of media that features a lot of arguing. Why does this is a genuine question and not a
Okay.
knock on the show?
All right.
Why does Gilmore Girls work for you? Because that is also not. That's a show where everyone's bad, pretty much. Everybody is flawed,
Yes.
and not a lot of things get resolved. And it kind of in the later seasons, the writer is intentionally sabotaging the show for studio reasons. Why does the arguments and
sucks.
the bickering in Gilmore Girls register for you? Is it because it is very women led?
Probably.
The men are very much side characters in Gilmore Girls. Was it just simply the era that you grew up, that you were in your life when you were
It's
watching
a very nostalgic show. I mean, it also, a lot of it takes place in fall, so it feels like a
the whole
very
show feels like
fall nostalgic. Like it was a simpler time. Like there was no smartphones. Everybody lives in this cute little town and they know each other.
surrounding
know,
a gazebo.
it's very
got
like
the coffee shop,
Parks and Rec-y. Like it's got all these
Seinfeld
kooky
almost.
side characters that pop in and out and they do crazy stuff. So, and I think, like you said, it's female led.
and written
So-
and directed.
I don't know. It just,
Okay.
that scratches
don't-
a part of my brain that I
I
enjoy.
don't guess you need to quantify it, but that's interesting that like,
I'm not upset at the arguing in Incredibles at all.
but you are in Christmas Story.
Yes.
Was kind of where I was like Christmas Story and Gilmore Girls. Every time I
It-
walk in the room and Gilmore Girls is on, there's an argument.
It's true. I don't know. Christmas Story just doesn't scan for me, but they're very tonally different.
Oh
so.
God, yes. Okay. All right, cool. So we've explored the family element a bit. Anything else to say on that note before we move? I'm gonna bring that back up, I think, later. But
Yeah, my only other thing I wanted to point out is I think the reason it resonates so much is because you also, not only do you see the realness, but you see growth in the characters too. Even in the kids. Like the kids go from you have to suppress your powers to, at the end, the boy is like learning how to like finish in second place.
oh God,
How to like have control
make it
over
close.
his.
Second, and then the one guy in the stands, it's like, what the hell
Look
is
at
happening?
him. Yeah,
But like
so funny.
all the characters have a similar growth to that, and I think that's why it scans so well too.
There's that one moment too in
Violet
the cave.
especially.
Let's jump to Act 3 because we've been talking for 42 minutes. Let's jump to Act 3, which is they're going to the island. We're cutting out a lot of the film, but watch the movie. It's
If
so
you're
good. If you
listening to
haven't
this,
seen
you've
this
probably
movie,
watched it.
If you haven't seen The Incredibles, Jesus Christ, go watch The Incredibles. Shut this off and go watch The Incredibles, and then come back. The Edna mode is basically how they find out. So Bob goes to Edna and has her make him a new suit. He doesn't disclose to Edna that the superhero work he's doing is under the table and that his family doesn't know. So Edna goes ahead and makes suits for the entire family, thinking that everyone's kind of in on it. And not knowing Jack's powers, she kind of makes his suit an all-arounder, whatever. The suit has a tracking device in it. All of them do, to help them keep track of one another. That's how Helen finds out that Bob really isn't doing what...
Work conference.
He's not at a work conference.
Big fat liar.
So Edna's basically like, go get him. Here's where he is on the tracking device. Go get him. And Violet and Dash sneak upon the private plane that she's chartered from her flight instructor friend.
Convenient.
And they sneak on the plane, which is bad. They leave Jack with a babysitter, which super comes into play at the very end of the film. And they approach the island. Let me find my specific note on the island. So her plane's flight number is an Easter egg.
Oh, nice.
She is India Golf Niner is the plane call sign. That's what she's saying to the island. Basically, let me land. India Golf Niner, we are friendlies. Call off the missiles. That is IG 99, Iron Giant 1999. That's a Brad Bird calling sign. And there's
Nice.
there's a lot of there's this the stereotypical Pixar Easter egg. I can't remember the exact numbers. Do you remember?
For what?
For like they put this number in all of
I
their
think
films.
it's like
Oh, yeah.
A113.
Something like that. Yeah, A113.
And it's like the building that
it's the
the
classroom.
the classroom
at
that
the college
animation-
that a lot of the animators.
I
came
think
in.
I saw it today. I think it's A113, something like that.
So that is
Nice.
used twice in this movie. It's in one of the scenes where he's going through the superheroes that have been killed or not. Well, Bob is when he's at the computer, seeing to the computer, and it's also the cell number he was held in
Nice.
when he was in the electric shackle things. So that's in almost every Pixar movie. That's like their kind of calling card. So that all is happening, and then they have a very, she's Violet is a character I identify a lot with, and I'll speak more on that later. But the plane missiles are happening, and she's like, Violet, you need to. There's a flip in their relationship with the kids' relationship with their mom, in that they've been told all the time to suppress their power because they need to fit in with society. Society has rejected us. We need to just act like we're people. Immediately to, I need you to put a force field around the plane. I've never done, and
But you
Violet's
said to
straight up
never use our powers.
Exactly, and I've never done one that big, and you can see her making little, like 8-inch in diameter force fields, and then the plane explodes, and right before it does, Helen jumps back and wraps the kids up. The plane blows
That
up,
was awesome.
and they float down. And then they have that scene in the cave at night. They're hiding in a cave, and Helen's like, I'm going to go find your dad or whatever. If there's any trouble, you need to use your powers, like straight up. And there's a moment with Dash to your similar to the point that you were making about the race coming in second of if you're in trouble, you need to run as fast as you can. And Dash is like, as fast as I can? Because you can tell his whole life he's been told the opposite.
Yeah.
A repression of your gifts almost, which could ring true for a lot of people. And then now is the time when you can finally like spread your wings, so to speak, which is a really cool moment for the movie. And what I struggle with is I don't quite know the lesson that's supposed to be being taught there. When do you suppress your gifts versus when is it okay? Like that's an interesting one, and I don't know if we're supposed to glean anything profound from that. What are you telling kids that have special talents or uniqueness about them to like hide them in certain situations but not in others? Like that's
I don't
kind of
think
interesting.
So I think it's about
I think it's just perfectly
Violet.
situational and
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's more about like how they both gain confidence. And Violet, by the end of the movie, is confident in herself and her abilities. Like
Yeah.
I think that's the story: is just be confident in yourself.
and then they start killing people.
They do that
Too much confidence.
directly. Like
It gets kind of, Helen's doing the sneaky deaky around the thing and she gets stuck in the doors, which is a super funny scene, and knocking the dudes down. The one dude's like poking her butt with a gun and she's like, ugh, and like kicks him in the jaw. And
Man.
super awesome. And then her and Bob, like she finds Bob with Mirage. Is that her name, right? The
Yes.
silver
Yeah.
haired lady who's super awesome. And it punches her in the face straight away. And Bob is
And he's like
held,
pulling her in.
and he's held by Syndrome earlier. Like he thinks his whole family's dead,
Yeah.
and he grabs Mirage. Is like, I'll crush her. I have nothing to lose. And Syndrome's like, do it. You won't. It'll be easy, like breaking a toothpick. Which
Not
is
a Daneson, though.
Not a Daneson. Those are thick.
Daneson.
Yeah,
Daneson.
those are worthy and fulsome.
Quality toothpicks. This podcast is brought to
This
you by
episode brought to you
Daneson.
by...
We like the mint one. Daneson.
Yeah.
The mint one.
Yeah.
I don't buy Daneson because they're too expensive.
you go through them
They
too
are
much. Yeah.
not cheap.
I go through like 3
Yep.
toothpicks a day. I can't
Yeah.
afford Danesons. Plus the mint and the cheap ones is stronger. Almost hurts.
Yeah. Like burned your lips.
There's a lot of this movie to go through, but I really like the whole, like when the family gets to fight as a superhero family when they're all in the jungle, and there's also that scene where Dash and Violet are running through the woods, and it's very akin to Return of the Jedi speeder chase.
Oh yeah.
That reminded me of that a lot. I mean, classic. Everything reminds me of Star Wars.
There's
but
the reference.
You gotta.
I
mention
really
it.
liked those like blade design things though for those little ships. Those are really sick.
I totally agree. I like the Omnidroid also, which, by the way, they had to pay George Lucas to use the term droid because he owns that.
Oh,
He
interesting.
invented the
Really?
word Android. Droid
Wow.
does all the phones, same thing.
Wow.
The name is used
That sounds
with
expensive.
permission from Lucasfilm.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I loved all that. The action is pretty good in the movie. It's obviously not the point of the film, but it is pretty good. Frozone's awesome. Sam Jackson's
Gosh.
perfect in that role.
This is so good.
Just his voice.
I just want more.
He's
I want
so
more of that character.
commanding, you know, like as a voice actor too.
They
Like,
picked him because they wanted him to have the coolest voice.
oh, nailed it.
So, yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Nailed it. Because there's something to be said of his on-screen presence. He's a dominant force whenever
Give him
he's
his own movie.
on screen. I mean, he has his snakes on a plane.
No.
Frozone.
Frozone.
Oh, Frozone. I was like, Sam Jackson
Give
has
Sam
starred in
Jackson a
stuff.
leading role. I think he's earned it.
Yeah. You know what? Hot take here. Let's make Sam Jackson have his own movie. I know I'm being bold.
He's
in
onto
saying
something.
This. Yeah.
Oh
Bright
my
future.
God.
Bright future.
He's got something going here.
Yeah.
Pulp Fiction. Never heard of it.
Nope.
So, man, he was one of my favorites. I want to talk to you. So to back up, there's a scene that's super relatable now that we're all aging like milk. And it's when Mr. Incredible is fighting the first Omnidroid and throws his back out. He's like, oh, my back.
It
Like-
was so specific the way he moved and sounded, and
I've been there a half a dozen times before I'm 30 even. And then when the Omnidroid grabs him and pulls
Stretch.
him and his back pops and he just goes, oh, and rips the arm off. This is the best. It's so good. Oh man, this movie's just awesome. The dash run speeder chase scene I already mentioned. I loved the whole, Syndrome's desire to be accepted is kind of interesting. It makes him a very relatable villain, which I find with superhero movies, the villain often is very relatable. As irredeemable as they are meant to be, they are often relatable because they represent in their evilness is where a lot of their humanity is, whereas superheroes are
Usually from trauma.
yes. And then, from the hero's perspective, we're supposed to rise above and whatever. But his whole plan is I've made the Omnidroid and I've got this controller and I'm going to defeat it and be the hero that I wasn't allowed to be because I get denied by Mr. Incredible. And then the Omnidroid, as advanced as it is, just shoots the thing off his wrist, which, Mr. Incredible is also awesome for beating the Omnidroid 1 because not Omnidroid 1, whatever version it was, like 9 or 10, because not only was it programmed to fight him, it was programmed having killed all of his friends, which is super cool. And
there's some conspiracy theories around the first one not being for
it wasn't
Mr. Incredible.
It was for Frozone.
It was for Frozone.
That's specifically said in the movie. When
Is
Frozone and Mr. Incredible, they're in the car listening to the police scanner.
Yeah.
And Mirage is watching them. She has a phone call with Frozone going, we need to change target. This is the guy you've actually been looking for. So it was for Frozone initially. But given
There's
that
blue light, red light on
Right.
the two that we see.
and given that it learns from
yeah.
whoever it's fighting, it doesn't actually end up really probably mattering too much.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's
a
AI,
super
baby.
Cool, it's a super cool concept, and I like how they defeat it as a kid, as a family. And there's that comedy bit where he's holding the arm, and they're just all pressing buttons on the controller. She
The bottom
turns
one.
it off, and he's like, "Press the same one again." And then she's waiting until it gets closer, and that fight's all awesome. And then the
It's a very
Everyone
family
duck.
fight over the remote. Like,
yeah, it's cool. And the stakes are high, but also the Incredibles are kicking ass as a unit, so it doesn't feel super dangerous because the danger we're supposed to feel is after they win against the Omnidroid and they're talking to the babysitter. Mrs. Incredible is going through Mrs. Incredible? Elastigirl? Helen Parr? I don't know what you're supposed to
All
call
of
her.
the above.
Helen's going through the voicemails in the limousine. And the babysitter progressively freaking out more and more because, again, none of the Incredibles yet know. None of the family knows that Jack Jack has powers yet. There's actually a tie-in short called Jack Jack Attack, which
nice.
is a short that is the events that the voicemails are from,
That's cool.
which is super cool, and you should watch it. It's only a couple minutes.
Yeah.
It's almost certainly on Disney+. And then the jarring one is the last one where she's calm and she goes, "Thank you for sending the replacement." Replacement? We didn't send a replacement. They walk out in their home.
I literally went, the what?
And Syndrome has Jack and like goes up in the air and he's going towards his plane with his cape on. And she's like, I don't remember if Helen or Bob says, you got to throw something. I don't want to hurt Jack. And then there's that moment where Helen's like, throw me. Bob, throw me. And he throws her. She grabs him. Syndrome gets sucked into the plane exhaust again. Capes.
Throws a
With his
sweet
cape.
car.
No capes.
And
Yeah, well, that's a loss.
And then we have the whole happily ever after. Violet's got her confidence. Or I kind of don't like the whole hair behind the ears thing because
It's very Breakfast Club.
it's very
But it's
yeah.
symbolic.
You're so much hotter without your glasses, kind of. But Danielle had to correct me last night and go, no. She hid behind her hair, and now
Yeah.
she has the confidence.
Yeah.
No,
And
no,
also, a
that's good.
man didn't put the headband
Which is
on
true.
her.
She did it.
She did it herself.
And Bob actually says, "Your hair's back. It looks good on you."
Yes.
And she goes, "Thanks, Dad."
So I'm not as bothered by that. I see your points.
I kind of wanted to get defensive.
You just like emo girls.
Yes.
So you're like, leave the hair in her face.
Now, before we move on to like hit or miss or things, I'm trying to kind of speed us along.
Yeah.
There's one more Easter egg. I'm fine if this one's a little bit long because I love The Incredibles. So suck it, everybody that's listening. There's an Easter egg I want to talk about. So at the end of the film, this is before, not quite the end, before the whole last Syndrome babysitter thing. It's after they defeat the Omnidroid. There's those two older gentlemen who were Mark on the old school methods.
Oh, yeah,
of
yeah,
The
yeah, yeah.
Incredibles beating the Omnidroid. That's old school. Yeah, old school. So those two old guys. So those guys were designed after and voiced by two legendary Disney animators, Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnson.
Huh.
Let me give you their track records. Frank Thomas animated The Seven Dwarves and Snow White, Bambi and Thumper, Lady Tremaine, who's the evil stepmother in Cinderella, Captain Hook, Mowgli, Baloo, King Louie, and Kaa from Jungle Book, Robin Hood and the Stork Disguise, Sheriff of Nottingham, Maid Marian, Prince John and Little John, and Robin Hood, and the Dancing Penguins and Mary Poppins. Ollie Johnson animated Bambi and Thumper, Anastasia and Drizella, the evil stepsisters from Cinderella, Alice and the King of Hearts from Alice in Wonderland, Mr. Smee from Peter Pan, the Penguin Waiters in Mary Poppins, Bagheera, Mowgli, Shanti, and Baloo from Jungle Book, Robin Hood, Little John, Prince John, and Sir Hiss from Robin Hood.
Those
They
are
are absolute
a little bit
legends.
I've heard
Legends.
of half of those characters. If I'm
Basically,
lucky.
they've been animated
But I get
for
it.
Disney
I get it.
since the 1930s. Like they were
That's
the
wild.
OGs. And they both were also
Did they do
given-
anything in this film?
No, they just were
It's
the
just a
voices.
homage.
They had been retired for 20 plus years. They also had small lines, from what I understand, in the Iron Giant. So it's definitely
Hmm.
Brad Bird tipping his cap to those who came before.
What
which I think
happened
is
that they
super
did
cool.
say, oh, now that's old school? What was the scene before that?
Just them defeating the Omnidroid.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Just kind of superheroes are back. That's old school. Because it's
Okay,
been,
gotcha.
I mean, 20 years, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's
15.
15.
15 or
15
20, yeah.
Which is cool. So now, hit or miss time. No. Yeah, let's do hit or miss, and then we'll see if Danielle has hot points. I'm gonna go hit. This was a transformational movie for me as a kid. I loved it. It's one of my favorite superhero movies of all time, if not my favorite. I talked about that at the end of the last episode. I won't rehash it again. Somebody else.
I'm gonna go hit as well. I super wish I would have seen this as a kid, but glad it scanned. as
Really? Did it scan
a 31-year-old?
well
Yeah.
enough?
For sure.
Okay. Would you watch it again?
Yes.
Perfect. I love that. Danielle.
Well, it's a hit for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great movie, great storytelling, great score.
Carl.
It's a hit for me.
Okay.
Hey,
Hot points? No.
I do not have hot points.
Cool. I think if any movie's gonna skip it, this one's fine.
Yeah.
So, this is our first hot points, non-hot points in a while.
Yeah.
I have a couple discussion questions I want to bring up before we cut 20 questions. We'll figure it out as we go along. Which power from the movie would you want?
Speed.
Super speed. What about you?
So historically, I've wanted the invisibility,
Okay.
but I think speed would be more useful in my daily life.
All right.
You know how
So
what?
I'm late to everything. I
Yeah.
need the speed.
I could get ready so fast.
Everything
I could
would be
actually-
15 minutes
yeah.
away.
Yeah.
Everything would actually be 15 minutes away. It'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I want to
super
go
speed.
speed. Yeah.
Carl, what would you take?
I feel like the invisibility with the shields is a pretty great combo.
It's a pretty lit combo. Yeah.
because if they do find out where you are, you can still protect yourself.
right. So you're taking
Yeah.
that.
I think so.
I'm similar to you, Danielle. Initially, as a kid, I wanted the invisibility, but today, give me the super strength.
That was the one. It was a toss up between those. I was like, bulletproof would also be very helpful.
Give me the super.
Yeah, it's more than strength too.
I didn't know he was bulletproof.
He is.
I didn't know it was part of his.
It's just alluded to on the desk. I didn't know that until I
But
did the research.
do you have to have bird legs and a giant upper body?
I
gotta
hope
He
do-
so.
had bigger legs after he started training again. Like
Did he?
noticeably
Okay.
bigger.
I think
bird
his
legs.
You can
top
work
half
on it.
just got smaller.
Yeah.
He needs to do
Did
more
you guys
leg day.
notice the like field of view? Like there were things that were in focus and not in focus throughout the movie.
Yes.
That's like such a deliberate choice.
I didn't
and I was
really
like,
notice it. It didn't jump out at me, actually.
I was like, oh god, that's such a great like storytelling device. Like even the framing for some of the stuff, like Bob
animating
would
a
be,
camera almost.
yeah, like at the wedding, like you don't see Bob's face and he has to like lean in. He's like, you need to be more flexible. Like they do a lot of really
Yeah,
deliberate camera
that's true.
positioning. That's like so good. Oh,
Jumping off of that question, which character do you most identify with? I'll go first. When I saw the movie as a kid, I most identified with Violet. Quiet, awkward, angsty teen without a full grasp on her powers was very relatable to me. I don't really have an adult answer. I'm going to stick with my kid answer. But what about y'all? Any character that immediately jumps out at you as I identify with that one? No is
I think Mirage, just a sexy silver-haired lady.
I like that. That's my favorite answer.
Yeah, it's also not true.
You don't think so?
It's stupid to say.
No.
Well, it's the woman.
That's so stupid.
Helen.
Edna,
Holly. What's her
Helen.
Elastigirl.
Elastigirl?
Helen.
Just from the idea of feeling stretched thin, but she can actually stretch thin. I can't. So maybe not even that. I don't know.
Danielle was like, having kids as Elastigirl must be awesome. 'Cause
It would be so awesome. You could just stretch it, no problem.
Oh
Stretch it,
no!
dude.
Just stretch it out.
Yikes!
You would have no stretch marks.
You're like 9 months,
true.
we're
Your whole
good.
body's
All right.
a stretch mark.
Yeah, like, come on.
Here we go.
Maybe,
Wah.
maybe I'd pick
It
that.
is. It is funny that she's like checking herself out in the like reflection when she's at the base, and it's like you can just distribute that anywhere. You don't have to be stuff like that. Like
Who do you identify with?
I feel like I'm a cross between Helen and Violet.
I think I would agree with you on that one.
Because I tend to have not a lot of confidence. But
Okay.
I also identify with Helen's just trying to, she's keeping her home. She's trying to find joy in the little things.
Who do
She's
you-
stressed because no one's listening to her.
Who do you see me as? Cross is acceptable.
Why?
She's gonna be like Bob's boss.
No.
And
No. My first thought was honestly like Violet and Frozone.
Frozone.
Do I get the pass?
You're no. No.
I don't know. The sass. The one-liner.
Cold.
Did you put it away?
I don't know. He's always, you're cold.
It's for the greater good. I'm the
it's
greatest
because of
good.
ice water.
Yeah, it's ice water. I'm just getting a drink.
I don't know. Do you see that at all? Because like you're not very Mr. Incredible. Like
I thought you would say
Wow.
Mr. Incredible because of the outbursts and the crushing of doorknobs.
yeah, you're angry.
Because I'm angry sometimes. But Frozone, I'll take
I
that to the
don't
friggin' bank, dude.
feel like I don't know. Mr. Incredible, he's angry, but he's also just like he's beaten down. That's why he's
I'm not that
angry.
beaten down.
No, you're just angry.
I get more angry at like injustice, like uncontrollably. So I'm like, this is.
I did like that as
Or
a
just
character
minor
choice. He was
inconveniences.
True.
beaten down, but he still found ways to help.
Yeah.
Like that was nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Frick
me
the insurance company.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's my big question. Do you regard this movie more as a Pixar movie or as a superhero movie? If you are forced to put it in one of those two folders.
Pixar.
Okay.
Pixar.
Okay.
Oh god, I guess Pixar, because we kind of mentioned earlier that like the superhero kind of takes us a back seat to the family drama.
Okay.
Um,
I have a
but
follow
yeah.
up.
But also, it can be both.
If I'm forcing you to bucket it,
Yeah.
just as an exercise, if not as a superhero movie, what ingredient is missing? What would throw it more in the superhero folder for you? What makes you? Is it just the animation style? Is it just the fact that it's animated? Is that enough?
Yeah, I mean the way they do the storytelling, the animation style, like it just feels like Pixar. The way
And you don't
they
mean that as a knock.
No, not at all. Like I love Pixar movies. They were definitely a staple growing up. Like I can't separate the two. I also feel like I associate more superhero stuff with live action versus animation, which I know that's probably wrong.
I think it's
because-
fine. So for example, for you three, it is a Pixar movie about superheroes.
Yeah.
And I would say for me, it's a superhero movie made by Pixar. It was very interesting.
Yeah, I would say it's not about adding an ingredient; it's about taking away ingredients, and it'd be taking away the family.
Okay.
Like
I
if it was
that.
just Mr. Incredible and like kind of his journey, then it's more of a superhero movie for me.
Yeah.
Once you add the
And-
family and the other kind of things, then that kind of outweighs it.
I think if there's more focus or equal focus on the villain, it would feel more like a superhero movie.
Yeah.
Because the focus is really on the family, not necessarily.
Focus on the family.
trauma.
Dr. James Dobson.
No, not Dr. James.
No.
That guy put him in the gulag.
Dr. James Dobson sounds kind of like an evil genius name.
Well, he is.
He is.
Well, hey, I really I like that. I like those answers. It's really cool. I'm fine to be the
Yeah.
odd man out on that one. For me, I've always kind of put this as, and I still think it. This is my favorite superhero movie. I really, really
I
love
don't
it.
even know how to answer that
It is
question.
very-
I
good.
like Carl's answer because I feel like the hero's journey is more about the family coming together versus Mr. Incredible solely getting like
You know,
his
it doesn't really
powers.
have the. It kind of does, but it doesn't really have the whole. You know, it doesn't end with a monologue about how I need to save the city more, and here's what I learned through this movie. Like, for example, Batman films have done, but it does end with the shirt pulling open to reveal the city.
Yeah,
So it has that motif.
Yeah, it's like they saved the day, but they also saved the family, kind of. Like that's
Yeah.
the bigger victory, I think.
Them being superheroes isn't the point. It's them finding their way as a family. That's the point, and that's what makes it more Pixar.
And
Which-
finding new acceptance in themselves, yeah.
And Finding Nemo. Now, do you want to do it or should we not do it?
Do what?
20 questions.
Let's do it.
We'll cut
It
it.
was
All right,
quick.
let me
It was
open
quick
up
last
my-
time.
Okay, so we're going in
Thing.
clockwise order. For those who didn't listen to the last episode, we're going to play 20 questions. We have a combined pool. Nick, Danielle, and I, all in this room, have a combined pool of 20 questions to figure out what movie out of the 77 movies that we have watched for the show Carl has picked.
All right.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Is it live action?
Yes.
It's
one question.
Was it this year or last year?
Last
meaning
year.
meaning we watched it last
Right.
year. Okay, so two
Yes.
questions. Danielle.
Was it made after 1990?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Last year, after 1990, does it have a male lead?
Yes.
Okay,
like
that does not narrow.
90
it.
Does the
100% of the
male
movies-
lead have a crooked tooth?
I don't think so.
So it's not
It's
Tom
not
Cruise.
Tom Cruise. I like that.
How many? How
question.
many are we on?
5.
Okay, thank Christ, you're keeping track.
Is it? I don't know.
Would you classify it as a comedy?
Yeah, I think so. But there's other.
There's
Components.
other elements. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's
That's
funny.
at 6.
Does it star? Does it star a former SNL cast member?
No.
Okay, so it's not Groundhog Day. So then my brain went right to Bill Murray.
Did I like it?
I think so, yeah.
That's huge.
Okay, I liked it.
That puts us at 8.
It's not Labyrinth.
The old comedy Labyrinth.
This is hard.
Does it
Comedy.
involve cowboy hats?
No.
Is the lead actor a comedian?
Yes.
I think I
Huh.
can. I
We're at 10
guess?
questions.
Can I guess?
Yeah.
Is that a
right?
question? That's 11.
No. Is it The Machine?
No.
Oh shit.
Oh, but it's a comedian?
See, I had another initial. Is it The Big Sick?
It is.
Hey!
Kumail.
Look at
Yeah.
me.
Kumail. Good job. So we got an 11
Nice.
or 12?
It was like 12 or 13, yeah.
I think my guess was 12.
Okay. so
Unless we count Cameron's Can I Ask? Or
We-
Can
we're
I
not
Guess?
Yeah, I was being a little
doing that.
snarky there.
We're not doing that.
Well,
The Big Sick,
snarky.
that's a hell of a guess. Why'd you pick that
Yeah.
movie?
I thought it would be tougher to pinpoint. I was like,
kinda
it's
was.
kind of yeah. I was literally going to do Groundhog Day, and then I was like, no. And I was gonna pick one that was like an obvious Carl movie, but I was like, no, let's try to pick one.
Yeah,
that's
like
what I was
my
trying to
brain was
think.
going The Matrix.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I was like, I'm not gonna do The Matrix. I'm not gonna do Fight Club. I'm not gonna do The Big Lebowski. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna like, just like trying to make it a little bit.
That's a smart choice. And one
under-
of our
yeah.
favorite movies we watched last year. That was such
Yeah.
a good movie. If you haven't watched The Big Sick,
And
go watch
I picked it because of the voice actor being in this movie too.
it. Yes, the
Yeah.
Holly Hunter.
Emily's
Holly
mom.
Hunter. Yeah.
Oh,
is
that's where
Helen Parr.
I
Yeah.
googled it. I was like, I recognize her, but I don't know
Yeah.
what she was in.
Wanted to
Yeah.
keep it a little tied in.
Nice.
We actually
I like
talk
that.
about that in the Big Sick episode. We
Oh,
talk
really?
about how she's Mrs. Incredible. Yeah.
I'm sure we do.
You hadn't seen the film yet. So, speaking of great movies, we're going to watch one that isn't that next. So, I'm trying to get a special guest down for a movie in the future. And by trying to get, it means I haven't messaged him at all, but I'm going
He's
to
trying
tomorrow.
really
I
hard.
promise.
Trying to try.
So, I wanted to save this movie for last, but I think we're just going to go ahead and burn it. We're going to watch a horrible movie.
I'm gonna love it.
For me, it's a movie that is like train crash bad, but it's so entertainingly horrendous that I enjoy it. I've only seen it one time, and I saw it as a young teenager. So it has been many, 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 many years since I've seen this movie. We're gonna watch Batman and Robin, which is atrocious.
1997.
1997's Batman and Robin. It stars George Clooney as Batman, which is a choice. Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze, Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy, a wacky waving arm inflatable car dealership man as Bane. Listen, none of you have seen this movie, right? Or Carl, you have
No.
maybe?
It's been so long that it might as well be fresh for
Okay,
me. Yeah.
so for you two who have not seen this, Danielle and I in the past year have gone through the first three movies in what is considered, I know he's not involved in all four, the Tim Burton Batman quadrilogy. The first three are like fine.
No, the second one was trash.
The second one we didn't like, which is the fan favorite, by the way. We're kind of the odd man out, but
well,
it's-
everyone else is wrong. I'm right.
I just didn't like any of the villains, which are the point. So this is the fourth movie.
All right.
It's ass. Let me
You
just
keep
say,
saying that, so I
Can
feel
I
like
put you-
my expectations are going to be so low that maybe it'll come out better because
that's
you've
what I'm hoping for.
you've dehyped it.
This is
so
the first
much.
movie that I'm making us all watch with the pretense that it's terrible. Here's the mindset I would like you all to have. This is a bad movie that is hilarious. It should be fun. I really want Danielle to enjoy it. I really want her to be
We'll
in a mindset
see.
where she's willing to accept a shitty movie as just a fun train wreck, because that's what it is. I find this movie endearing.
If it's entertaining, I'll like it. If it's boring and gross,
I
then I won't like it.
I don't remember it being boring. I remember it being just a chaos mess.
All
So
right.
we'll see. Maybe it'll be better than I remember it. I'd bet all my money that it isn't. So we're going to watch that. Watch it with us and watch the episode because, wow, it's a disaster. So, hey, superhero month. This will be the worst
Doing
movie
it.
we watch maybe all year.
We'll see.
I hope it is. But it'll be a fun one. So we're going to have a fun episode next week. I hope you enjoyed this one. Join our Discord where we talk about Wordle every single day and how bad I am at
It's
it.
really interesting.
All I can do is connections. So, hey, whatever. Shout out to the New York Times. We'll catch you on the next one.